Thank you. Maria, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully somebody up there is going to put my slides up. If not, I will. But there we go. There we go. Well, I can see them. You can't. There we go. It's a great pleasure to be with you this morning. Maria, it's a delight to be on the platform with you. It reminded me that after this session, I need to go and cast Mainstream's votes in the Renewable UK board elections, just like old times. I'm very grateful indeed to All Energy for the opportunity on behalf of my co-chair Hannah Brown to present an update of the work of the Offshore Wind Programme Board, not only as it should complement the presentations, the other presentations on the panel, and Carolyn has already given an overview of the work that BIS are taking forward right across the sector, but also actually because all the other panelists, either individually or representing their organizations, sit on the program board. So if there's anything that I miss or anything that I say that I shouldn't have, they all have the opportunity to correct me. So you're going to get, I think, an extensive presentation on the areas of common interest. And Carolyn has already indicated a number of the initiatives where the program board has a particular interest. But also, it's a pleasure to be here because All Energy now provides the venue for the spring board meeting of the programme board, of which more later. So forgive me if I take a few slides to remind us of the reasons for the existence of the programme board. This slide, and excuse the lack of focus, it is absolutely clear you can't read the slide, even if you're thinking you haven't put your contact lenses in this morning. Really, you can't read the bottom line, so please don't strain to do so. It is, however, a compilation of the analysis done by Mott MacDonald and others for the Committee on Climate Change, looking out at the levelized cost of energy of a variety of low-carbon technologies, both to 2020 and then out to 2040. And if I had a pointer, the blue line on the left of both charts is the band for offshore wind. And Mott MacDonald's estimation for 2020 runs up to £100 a megawatt hour and then coming down out to 2040. And the principal role, in fact, the overriding role, the first commandment in that sense for the programme board, is to facilitate that downward progression in the levelized cost of energy for offshore wind. That is our mandate and our core objective. Many of you will be familiar with the parentage of the programme board. The Crown Estate Pathway Study and the Cost Reduction Task Force, both of whose parents, in that sense, are on the panel with me this morning, have provided us with our roadmap. And much of our first year, last year, on the programme board has been about putting in place the mitigating actions to reduce the risks to cost reduction that these reports identified. This next slide is, in essence, what the programme board is about. I want us to enable you, the industry, us, the industry, to move much of the purple and blue lines out there to the right into construction and operation over the next decade. And government has been quite clear, acting on behalf of us as the UK consumer, that they will continue to support us if, and it's a very important if, we as an industry reduce the levelized cost of energy that we supply into the national grid. And clearly, none of us want to be in a position in 10 years' time where the UK and our neighbours in the North Sea each have a very small and very expensive offshore wind sector, because that will mean that those bars, those purple and blue bars out on the right, will not come to market. And the bars beyond them that we want to see developed out through the 2030s towards the 2050 goal will be replaced by some other form of technology which has managed to reduce its costs to a position that the consumer is willing to support. Which is why I say in parenthesis, I am very interested and very pleased that we are beginning preliminary discussions with the German and Danish offshore industries about industry collaboration in the North Seas basin. Because although, as Caroline said, there is a lot of very important work we can do in the UK to capture the economic benefit to this industry, we can also collaborate on cost reduction in a wider market as well. I wanted to include this slide to show two things. Firstly, the breadth of interest in offshore development in the UK, from the Big Six through the Nordics to the independents. And secondly, out again to the right, we can begin to see the entry of institutional investors, albeit mainly at this stage at the operational stage. But this diversity of interest, despite the recent stepping back of two of the Big Six, is to my mind a sign of the health of the sector, and will mitigate the risk of any individual project or player leaving the sector for other pastures, which can, by comparison with other parts of the low-carbon sector, is a matter of strength for offshore and not a matter of weakness. So I'm very keen to ensure that the programme board is not an anonymous quango. We're not even a quango, but we're not anonymous either. And our role is to ensure that the work we do is both relevant and realistic, but also transparent and visible to the industry. We cannot mandate cost reduction. I'm not the director of a Soviet tractor factory. I don't have a red telephone to the minister to tell him that we have delivered the cost reduction that he has tasked the industry with. We are the industry. We're drawn from across the offshore sector, and as I hope to show, the collaboration that sits at the heart of our work is something that we are very keen to have our industry embrace. One of the strengths of the programme board is that we are drawn from every corner of the sector. I think there's probably a rule that you can't be a properly constituted government body unless you have the Treasury sitting around the table with you. We do, and I'm delighted that Infrastructure UK, along with BIS, DEC, DEFRA, the JNCC and the Scottish Government are on the table, around the table, working hand in glove with the industry representatives. So much for the introduction, and I'm conscious of time. I don't want to put up too many charts about structure. I want to get to the heart of what we're doing. But this, I think, is important because you'll see where we fit into the wider industry council. They are our masters. They give us our directions. They give us our work. We take our work to them for funding. But more importantly, we are now divided into a series of work streams, each with a board member, both public sector and private sector, leading. And we are plugged straight in to the RUK strategy groups along the bottom line there. There's no attempt to work, again, in a silo. I want to ensure that the programme board is fully aligned and fully plugged into the work of the industry so that we are, what we're doing is relevant, meaningful, and tangible for the industry as a whole. And forgive me for the slight out of focus nature of that slide. If you want to talk to me in any more detail about any of those work streams, please do so. I mentioned that All Energy is now a permanent fixture in the programme board calendar. Our spring board meeting tomorrow will approve, I hope, the main programme of activity for our work streams there in May. Each of the work streams brings their deliverables for approval, which are then reviewed at the autumn board meeting and published so that you can track our progress in our annual report at the start of the year. And this should ensure that we can properly manage the mitigation actions that underpin our work, as well as properly reporting to you, to the industry, on progress. Last year, I broadly described what I thought the programme board could and would do, and now I can report on what we are doing. I've already described our structure and our work plans, but without monitoring, we are blind to the impact of that work, which is why the cost reduction monitoring framework will be a vital and much-needed tool, as will the UK content methodology, which will span the life cycle of offshore projects from development to O&M, not just CapEx, and will tie into the supply chain plans that Carolyn has already indicated, and should reassure Her Majesty's Government that we are delivering GVA in return for their support and for the support of the British consumer. This, however, is the key slide for our activity. In addition to these particular bespoke projects, there is more granular work right at the heart of our activity captured by the risk committee. Each work stream owns a series of risks to cost reduction, each also owns a mitigation plan. And this heat map allows us to record and track the impact of industry activity to deliver that mitigation. It may look like a game of snakes and ladders, but it represents our best efforts to remove barriers to cost reduction. I said earlier that I'm not the director of a Soviet tractor plant, but the program board can enable industry and government to collaborate to facilitate cost reduction, particularly as we move towards a more competitive process under the CFD allocation mechanism. I see knowledge sharing and knowledge management, the constructive use of war stories in that sense, as absolutely vital to our work. And the Developer Day process, led very ably by the Crown Estate, is already delivering solid returns, providing the only all-industry gathering for offshore project directors with a degree of confidentiality under the Chatham House rules, so they can really explore lessons learned from their projects. We've already had extremely useful presentations from both the London Array and Gwynty Moore. This community of practice has the potential to drive very significant progress for our mutual good. I hope that I have given you not just an update on our activity, but a sense that we are at work on your behalf to help remove barriers to cost reduction, such that in a decade from now, offshore wind will be a cost-competitive, large-scale, and reliable source of electricity to UK and European consumers. Yes, the challenge remains significant, but I can't think of another industry in our sector that is as focused on cost reduction as we are, and that has such an extraordinary potential over the next 2 decades. Maria, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much indeed.